Hello, everybody out there in the world today. I am your host, Andrew Lenz, and this is Let's Talk But No Politics, okay? Presents this week in History Review. Very, very cool. I like it. I like doing these. I like knowing what's going on in pop culture history and everything else. It's fun. It's fun. It's fun to look back and think about the memories of things that happened and everything else and seeing kind of sad in a way, but how long ago things happened and everything else. That's why I do this. I do it for that reason, just to look back and get the memories of everything. So without further ado, let's move on. Because this is for the week of November 2nd through November 8th. So let's see what's going on. You're watching with the video. We got a little TV going up, and here we go. November 2nd, 1983. The single of Thriller is released worldwide. I think I said it right there with Thriller. It's Thriller. Michael Jackson's Thriller. Iconic song. I would have to say a little bit more of an iconic music video in my mind as well. So big, so elaborate. I believe Steven Spielberg worked on the music video. Vincent Price doing the voiceover in the music video. Just great. Just absolute 100% great. I cannot say enough about this. It's Thriller. It was so big that Ron Artest or Meta World Peace or whatever you want to call him wore the number, I believe, 73 on his jersey when he went to the Lakers because that was the number of weeks Thriller was on the Billboard Pop charts, which is great. I think that's kind of cool in a way. I think it's awesome. And I gotta say that's really great the way to pay a tribute. When I first heard it, I was like, come on, dude. But then, hey, we all like to pay tribute to people that we looked up to, we admired, and everything else. And what can I say? Michael Jackson, he's a superstar. He's the king of pop. He's a pop icon. I can't say enough about Michael Jackson and and Thriller. I mean, a lot of other people could say other things about him, but I'm looking at him in a pop culture sense. And whatever happened happened. But as a musical artist, just great, just great. It's Michael Jackson, as Dave Chappelle said, he made Thriller, y'all. Thriller. So let's move on. What do we got here? We have November 3rd, 1956. The Wizard of Oz is shown on TV for the first time. Huge, huge. Was not born in 1956, but I remember Wizard of Oz would come on maybe once a year when I was a kid. It was a big deal. We gathered around the TV as a family. We popped popcorn. We did all that stuff, and we watched The Wizard of Oz because it was The Wizard of Oz. It's probably the first kid type fantasy movie that I ever remember getting into and not thinking about how old it was because of the transition from black and white to color. Very different. Very different. I mean, I was at the point where we did have a black and white TV. We played like Atari on it, but we didn't watch TV in black and white. But hey, you do what you got to do. And it was just great transition, great special effects, great everything. Wizard of Oz. No, that's one of those things that reminds me of family time. Like I said, gathering around, everybody watching it, getting everything all set up. And there's a lot of other mixed things in the pop culture as well going into the Wizard of Oz. You have the guy that supposedly was electrocuted during, I believe it's a Tin Man scene. And then after the Tin Man or the Calorie Lion scene, there's supposedly the person that hung himself. You got to remember this was made during the Great Depression, and it's called the Great Depression for a reason. It's not called the Great Happiness, but that's one of the things. But there's layers into it. But as a story, it's really great. Great story. And one of the things that I've always wanted to do is, as I got older, I found out it was a book series. And I would like to read the book series to get more of the story. There was that little sequel that was very odd. I believe it's still on Disney Plus if you want to check it out. It's called The Return to Oz. And it's very different than The Wizard of Oz. We'll go that route. Very different. So, November 3rd, 1956, The Wizard of Oz is shown on TV for the first time. Here we go. November 4th, 1996, the Spice Girls released their debut album, Spice. Yes. And girl power started from that moment. Uh, I, Even I own this CD. My brother would borrow it. They were huge. They were huge towards the late 90s. Very huge. This girl band preaching girl power. They had the music or the movie. Music videos were great. You know, wannabe, if you want to be my lover. I mean, the Spice Girls changed, kind of flipped the script a little bit. I think it brought in a little bit more girl bands and everything else, like I said, with the whole girl power scene. And they opened up a lot of things. Like I said, I don't know how many people that did not have this. We'll go CD at this time or album or even the single, the wannabe single, and everything else. Spice Girls brought in a wave, a very big wave, and they're still embedded into the history of pop culture today. And it's something that you got to look at. I heard there was maybe a reunion, so maybe that's going on. Let's see if I can name them all. As I'm going, it's Scary Spice, Sporty Spice, Baby Spice, Posh Spice, Ginger Spice. I think I got them all. And that's off the top of my head. So that's pretty amazing. I like it. The Spice Girls released their debut album titled Spice on November 4th, 1996. Awesome. Well, here we go. November 5th, 1955. Don Brown slips on his toilet while hanging a clock and has the vision for the flux capacitor. First of all, I'd like to say this is my friend Reed's birthday. He was a childhood friend of mine. Say happy birthday to Reed. Happy birthday. But also, this is Back to the Future. It's fictional, but it's awesome because Back to the Future was one of those first movies where, in my mind, time kind of meant something. In a way, like going back to the 50s and going into the future and Back to the Future 2 and everything else in a way. And it made you think, could time travel be, possible? Everything else. And when you're a kid, you're thinking that's pretty awesome. I would love to just travel back and forth into time. And the DeLorean, I think it made the DeLorean even more iconic as well, with everything going on. So when I saw this and I was like, oh my goodness, that's right. That is the date. I was like, yeah, that's cool. Got to talk about how they incorporated all of that into the movie, how it looks, how it feels, and everything else. I have the Back to the Future trilogy. My my youngest son is a big fan of Back to the Future. Matter of fact, he He used to watch it a lot. I don't think he's ever seen the third one, but he's seen the first two, which I should get him to watch it. The third one's not all that bad, but it's a different cup of tea. It needed to end after the third one, I think. And they were talking about doing a reboot. I don't want to see a reboot. I don't want to see a remake. Please leave Back to the Future alone. What are you going to do? You're going to change all the times. What are you going to do? Have them go back to 1975 or have them go back to 1985 or something of that nature? No, just leave it alone. Hollywood, please leave stuff alone. But that's where we're at. Doc Brown. I think Doc Brown. The other thing too great about this is Doc Brown and Marty McFly. I was reading somewhere. It's pretty much the basis for Rick and Morty. Also, if there's any Rick and Morty fans, because you can see that dynamic in a way, even though the Doc Brown character is ramped up completely, way heavier, and that's what it means. People love Back to the Future. Doc Brown at the top of his toilet while hanging a clock has the vision of a flux capacitor. Archie, don't mess with time travel. November 5th, 1955. Awesome. Awesome. Here we go. November 6th, 1983. Will Byers, the character from Stranger Things, go missing. I did put that in there. I should have put Will Byers goes missing, but he was found. He was found. I enjoyed Stranger Things. This is probably mm, I don't know if this is number one or maybe number two shows that I'm like we need for that I love to watch on Netflix because it brings me back to a simpler time of when you would go to the arcade, the video store, the mall. In the last season, the mall was huge, and it gives you those memories and it gives you those feel good moments of your childhood. So the Stranger Things is awesome, and the whole missing. A kid goes missing today. It's it's still big, but then back then, it's always scary. I don't even want to get into that. I don't even know why I started on that path. We're gonna quit that. But Stranger Things is something that I think is bringing back more and more into what we remember from the 80s and everything else with the cars, the arcades, the malls. I mean, you go into a mall now, most malls are just kind of depressing. Uh, the place where I grew up at, we had three malls. Now we're down to one mall. I lived in Binghamton, New York. There's a mall there. Very depressing. Not a whole lot of stores, not a lot of this, not a lot of that. Um, but watching this and watching last season reminded me of all that. And all like going to the mall was super huge. It wasn't you're going to go shop online for Christmas back then. It was we're going to go to the mall. We're going to do this and we're going to have a good time. So, November 6th, 1983, Will Byers, the character from Stranger Things, goes missing. And check out Stranger Things. Check it out. It's on Netflix. So, let's keep this move. So, here we are. We're almost done. We're almost done. Oh, my goodness. The week flies. I've noticed this. I'm going to take a look. The week flies because this is the weekend. That's the whole week so far. That's Monday through Friday. So now we're approaching the weekend and stuff as well in there. And when the show comes out, we're approaching the weekend. And if you watched the video before, we look forward to the weekend. The weekend is big. These are the posts on the weekends. So let's see what the weekend posts were for Saturday. November 7th, 2003, Star Wars Clone Wars makes its debut on Cartoon Network. I did not watch this when it came out. I believe that the movies were the best. I'm just going to sit there. I'm going to watch the movies. I'm not going to watch every TV show. When I did get Disney Plus, I went through and I watched all the episodes. And then right before, let's see, I got done watching all the episodes. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, we're going to do the final season. I thought the original series ended perfectly with the whole Yoda Vision quest. I didn't think we needed anything else. I really didn't. And then they redid it, and it had a good ending. Not going to give you any spoilers. It had a good ending. I enjoy the Clone Wars. It had a good story. I like in the beginning of each one when they do the little like 1920s, 30 movie serial voiceover for like the news where they tell you where it's going on between the fight between the Republic and the Separatists and all that. I mean, it's cool how they do that. Great character development. And another reason why I didn't like it or I didn't want to watch it is I didn't believe in the character. I'm going to probably mess up her name like I always do. Ahsoka Katan. I thought that was stupid. I watched it and I loved her character. Her character was perfect. And that Anakin was her master was even more perfect, I thought, because of how the balance and everything was. It's one of those things that you need to watch if you want more character depth and to find out a little bit more of the Clone Wars. I don't think it's a giant, if you're medium to casual fan, I don't think it's a must watch, but it is good. It's very well done. The cartoon movie that came out, the Clone Wars to start the series was good. The series is done good. Everything is done good. It is Star Wars, so what's not good about it is pretty awesome. Is not that bad. I enjoyed this one. I do have to say, I actually enjoyed Star Wars Rebels, that animated series, better than the Clone Wars. I've had a couple of people tell me I'm nuts, but I actually enjoyed that. Maybe because it was different characters and different time. And that's what made it cool. I like to get into the different time periods, and that's why I'm glad I watched both of them. See what the little stories behind everything as well. I also enjoy The Mandalorian. That is a great one as well. So I would say if you've never checked it out or you want to revisit it, check out Star Wars Clone Wars and check out Star Wars Rebels. Two great animated series. It's better than Droids. Just saying. If anybody remembers Star Wars Droids, it's better than that. But on November 7th, 2003, Star Wars The Clone Wars made its debut on Cartoon Network. So here we go. This is our final one. This is Sunday. And November 8th, 1972, home box office, HBO, is launched in Wilkes-Barre, PA. First of all, this is my brother's birthday, so happy birthday. I did tell him happy birthday on his birthday, even before this episode came out, but it's his birthday, so I'm going to acknowledge it. I acknowledged my friend Reed's birthday. I'm going to acknowledge my brother's birthday as well. Home box office. What can I say? This was huge. I was not around in the 70s. Home box office was huge. The whole HBO. It was. Sorry for the pause. It was our Netflix before Netflix in a way. You had Fraggle Rock. There was that weird Wizard of Oz once again. That weird Wizard of Oz cartoon. I don't remember too much about it. I remember watching Empire Strikes Back on home box office. Home box office was huge in so many ways because it was a paid service and you got to watch all these great movies and shows. The only thing that's different from Netflix is we didn't get to pick. They were like, here, this is what's coming on. You're going to watch this and you're going to enjoy it. And that was one of the great things about it is it was commercial free movies and TV. And you just sat there and you watched it. I loved it when we didn't constantly always have it as a kid and pay for it, but when there was a free week, when you got a free week of HBO or free HBO weekend, that was big. That was sit by the TV. We're gonna see what's gonna come on. We're gonna watch all these great movies. We're gonna do all this stuff, and we're just gonna check it out. We're gonna check it. HBO is amazing. Probably one of my favorite HBO memories is I watched Buster Douglas defeat Mike Tyson on HBO. And that was huge in itself as well. And it's even the boxing. I don't remember Showtime being on too much boxing and before pay-per-view and everything else. I do remember watching boxing on pay-per-view, but most of the Tyson's fights I remember were on HBO, if I'm not totally mistaken. But this is something huge. This was a game changer. This was a symbol of, in my mind, I didn't grow up with a whole bunch of money. Like, wow, your family could afford HBO. That's pretty awesome. But to be able to just watch movies and to have the movies that, the touch, just the touch of a fingertip, and to see the movie, and then they would even show you different things. And the TV shows, even today, I have HBO Max. And to see the TV shows that HBO has put out in The Sopranos, I did a Soprano retrospective. You can check that out. I'll tell you where you can check that out if this is the first time listening. But I'm watching Entourage. There's just too many good HBO shows out there. And HBO is huge. And I think it still is huge. And I think they're realizing they're going to get into the streaming market and they're going to change it, because if the only thing that's keeping me from really, really enjoying it is it's not on Roku yet, because I have a lot of Roku TVs. So it's not on Roku. So I got to watch it on my phone or do a mirror thing to my phone, or I got to download the app on my PS4. That is the only thing that's killing me with this. But then again, HBO gets it, and I hope they can strike a deal with Roku so they can get the app on there. But November 8th, 1972, home box office is launched in Wilkes-Barre, PA. So, if you enjoyed this, please search out my other episodes. You can check out those on the BICP Radio Network, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And all of these productions come out of the wonderful podcast precinct. Consistency, creativity, and culture is what they preach. And that's what we try and do with that as well. So I do this one on Helium every Friday at 7 p.m. The new episode is released on Helium Radio. I believe it's under the Life Improvement Radio, but you can check it out then. Please go to our Facebook, like the page. Let's Talk But No Politics. Always putting up content there. YouTube channel. If you want to watch this video, go check it out. I also put up my podcast recording there. And we're also on Instagram. So please check all these out. All of them. Check them out. Because if you like what I'm doing here, you're going to like what I'm doing for my other episodes as well. We just did. Let's see what we got on tap. I have Daryl Smith. He was a Navy brat. We're talking about the two different, and he would go over to Scotland twice a year. So I'm going to talk to him about that and some of his childhood memories. Talking Little League with my favorite shortstop, Joe Kasha. I just recorded one that should be out in December. Top 5 pop culture duos that personally, your personal top 5. I did that with Bryce Benjamin from Sports Your Enthusiasm. Then episodes on Tecmo Super Bowl, wrestling, Pokemon Go, early childhood crushes, pretty much a lot. And you can catch those. You can find those. Either you go to the BICP Radio Network or you go to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And like I said, this every Friday, 7 p.m. on Helium Radio Network. So, with that all being said, I'd like to thank you for listening. And good morning, good afternoon, and good night.